Welcome to another episode of Ask and Ye Shall Receive Answers. This is the point in the week where I take one of your questions and I do my best to answer them, sometimes throw some visuals in your direction. Now, there is also the Invincibly Supermassive comic book podcast of stuff where I answer your questions. I also sometimes can get creators to join in on the answering of the questions. But this question, this one actually came up last week. I was looking at it just from T.F. Crocky, from Robert, and I thought this was a really good question, and I wanted to use the visuals here, so that's where the video format comes a little handy here. Now, his question is, what do I think was in the letter addressed to Cain, Scarlet Spider, from Julia Carpenter? So this was in Scarlet Spider number 12. What happens at the end, this was like the Christmas issue. What happens at the end, because Cain, as you might know if you've been reading Scarlet Spider, he's staying at a hotel. He came across a big bag of money from some bad guys. And he's living in a hotel, because why not? You know, that's what people with big bags of money do. Anyways, this letter is addressed to Cain Parker. And they're like, we don't have a K. Parker staying at this hotel, because Cain must not have registered as Cain Parker, because he still has issues with Peter Parker, the clone, all that stuff. So the question is, what the heck was in this letter? Because since he was not registered under Parker, they didn't deliver it to him. Now, the big question is, okay, let's back up again. Who the heck is Julia Carpenter? She used to be Spider-Woman. She debuted in Secret Wars. She was the one in the black and white costume. Looked like the Venom costume. Now, because certain things happen, the original Madam Web, who was the creepy old lady, she was blind, she sat in a chair all the time, she had visions, she's always like messing around with Spider-Man. If you watch the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s, you know she was always pulling him out of the middle of somewhere and being all cryptic and saying all weird things to him. So it's kind of the same thing. Julia Carpenter kind of inherited the role of Madam Web. Now she gets these visions. She sees the future. She sees different futures, but it's not like she can just say, hey, watch out for this. She's got responsibilities. She can try to guide, direct, but you can't muck around with time. So you got to be careful. You can try to nudge things in the right direction, and that's what she's trying to do. So the question is, because Julia wrote this letter to Cain, could it be possible it was about what's happening in Superior Spider-Man? Does she know, spoiler if you haven't read Superior Spider-Man or Amazing Spider-Man 700, Doc Ock is supposedly in Peter Parker's body. Doc Ock is now Spider-Man. Peter Parker is supposedly dead. They switch bodies. Watch the other video if you need to know what's going on in Superior Spider-Man. So Peter Parker is supposedly dead. He was in Doc Ock's body. Doc Ock was dying. He's in Peter Parker's body. Now he's the Superior Spider-Man. So what it kind of looks like is, did Madam Web, did she try warning Cain that Doc Ock is doing this crazy plan, this crazy scheme, all these shenanigans, that he's taken over, that's not Peter Parker? People are at risk, especially Mary Jane. Everyone's complaining about that. It's hard to say if that's the situation. Now, before Julia disappeared, I believe the last time we saw her was in Amazing Spider-Man 695. She knew something was coming. She knew the end was coming, the end for her. And she made some arrangements. She had her daughter go off, I think to her mom's or something like that, to Julia's mom. And she goes to the subway or something like that, and she calls the hospital. She's like, I'd like to report this woman in distress. Something bad's coming. They're like, who's this woman? And she's like, it's me. And then she has this big crazy vision. But it's a crazy vision, but it was kind of like an ad or a teaser for all the Marvel Now comics. Because we see a bunch of Marvel Now stuff. Like in the upper left corner, you see the all new X-Men. We see the Lizard, Kirk Connors, he's got that big giant muzzle. We see all this weird stuff. We see Venom, we see Hulk, we see the Future Foundation. But looking carefully here, as we move towards the bottom, we see Doc Ock. Now again, this is 695. This is before 698 when Doc Ock revealed his plan. So we see Doc Ock dying there. We also see that little Robo-Octobot, whatever you want to call it. That's the little robot that zapped Spider-Man at the end was supposedly the last straw in switching brains and all that stuff. We also see this other one right above everything that looks like, could that be Peter Parker? It's a little hard to tell. It looks like kind of like a mean looking Peter Parker. So maybe that has something to do with it. So the question is Julia Carpenter trying to warn Kaine? Because with all this going on, who else can she turn to? Who else can she trust? You know, Kaine obviously knows Peter Parker, Spider-Man. There's not that many people that know Spider-Man's secrets since, you know, One Moment in Time or Brand New Day and or whatever. Everyone's minds are erased. So it's possible she could be warning him. The problem is he didn't get the letter. He didn't read it because he wasn't registered as Parker. But the other thing, why was that friggin' letter open? Who opened that letter? Because it's sitting there. Someone opened it. Someone read this letter, and that makes me kind of think that it can't say that, it can't give the details of saying Peter Parker is not Peter Parker, it's really Doc Ock, because someone read, and I don't think, no, here's the other thing, I don't think Julia Carpenter is just going to write a letter and just say, oh, Kaine, by the way, Peter Parker, you're the guy you're cloned from, had his body switched. She's not going to put that in a letter. Why she didn't call him, send an email? His emails can be intercepted. But the thing is, we don't know what that is. It's possible, I mean, you'd want to think that it has to do with Superior Spider-Man, with this whole thing. Because Chris Yosta's, you know, he wrote it. He's also writing Avenging Spider-Man. You know, he's working with Dan Slott on all this Spider-Man stuff. It's possible, but based on the visions, now again, 695, 3 issues before 698, they couldn't go too reveal-y, they couldn't, you know, give it away in the vision. I don't think there's any mention of her actually writing a letter or sending out a letter to anyone in 695. So it's hard to say if that really happened. She was making plans, she was trying to, you know, she knew she was going to be out of the picture for a while, she knew something bad was coming, but there was no mention of her sending a letter. And it seems kind of weird. Would she send it to Kaine? Would Kaine listen? What would he do? What can he do? If Kaine said, if he finds out that Doc Ock is in Peter Parker's body, what can he do about it? It's not like he can do it. He could try to go to Reed Richards and say, hey, you know Spider-Man, he's not Spider-Man now. There has to be another reason why it's all going to come back. The Peter Parker is going to return somehow. Because if Peter Parker, Spider-Man, was really going to die, I really think Julia Carpenter would try to do something to prevent that. She wouldn't just say, oh, I got this vision, I can see everything. She would try to do something more than send a letter to, and how come she didn't know that Kaine wasn't going to read the letter? She's supposed to know everything, to see everything. There's no answer to this question, but it is something to think about. It is something that we have got to see resolved soon. The problem is, how long is Superior Spider-Man going to last? If it's going to last a year, that letter, maybe it's going to be sitting at the front desk for a while, and then Kaine's going to check out, or someone, I don't know. It seems that it's probably has to do with something with Doc Ock. We don't know. I'm almost wondering if it's something totally unrelated. That, you know, maybe something else is going to happen for Kaine. Maybe it's saying that Ben Reilly's coming back, but he's not coming back. I don't know. So what do you guys think? It almost seems too obvious that it would be about Superior Spider-Man and Doc Ock. That makes the most sense, but again, it seems like it's too obvious. So could it be something just totally unrelated, or maybe, you know, Julia's just say, hey, Kaine's trying to be a good guy now, I'm going to give him this little heads up about something else. Totally unrelated to Spider-Man. But then why didn't she warn Spider-Man? Julia, what are you doing? Why don't you warn Mary Jane? So let me know what you guys think, because obviously there is no answer, and that was a question. The question was, what do I think, not what is, because who knows? We don't know. So let me know what you guys think. Did Julia know that Superior Spider-Man, that Doc Ock was going to do all this stuff? Did she know this was coming? And did she just not say anything because either she didn't have time, or she's got to let certain events happen? Or is it because Peter Parker's not really dead, like I said? And, you know, maybe she's just like, okay, here's a little bump in the road, but it's going to get resolved, you know, soon. that's the nice thing about mysteries, about comic books. Gets you thinking. And yeah, it's frustrating. We want the answers right away, but we gotta wait and see how it plays out. If you have any questions, and hopefully I can answer them better than I tried to answer this one, ask me on the general forums on Comic Vine and the Ask G-Man video forum thread, or on Twitter. This one question actually came from Twitter. Just you can @replyme G-Man from Heck. Use the hashtag AskGman, and I will answer your questions. I will answer your questions either here on video, not in this video, or on the Invincibly Supermassive Comic Book Podcast and stuff. But why would she write a letter? A letter could get lost in the mail. No offense, Postal Service.